going to give folks a couple of seconds to join here. All right, thank you everyone for attending today's webinar, the Zen of CRM, What Simplicity Can Do for You. My name is Sarah. I am the Vice President of Marketing, and I will be playing the role of host today. But before we get started, I'm just going to run through a few housekeeping items. So this will be about a 45-minute presentation. It will include a demo as well as a 15-minute live Q&A at the end. So even though we have the formal Q&A at the end, at any point, if you have questions during the presentation, just put them right in that question box, and I'll be monitoring that, and I'll interject with the presenters and ask them as they are relevant. The other thing that I do want to mention is that we are recording this session, and so we will send a copy of both the webinar presentation, the deck, and the recording of the webinar to you in a follow-up email. You'll likely see it in your inbox tomorrow morning. So with that, it is my pleasure to introduce the presenters for today's webinar. We have both Sonia Friedel from BrainSell on the line. Sonia's president at BrainSell and has been with the company for more than 10 years now, Sonia? Is that right?
Going on a dozen.
Look at you. Oh my gosh, going on a dozen. And then we also have Justin Hunt joining us from Zendesk. And Justin, actually, Justin was an enterprise sales executive at Base CRM and then came over to Zendesk with the acquisition. Is that correct, Justin?
Yes, right. Yeah, so I've been with the products for a little over 5 years now.
Great, awesome. So thank you both for joining us today, and I'm going to turn it over to you, Sonia, to walk through the agenda and get it going.
Awesome, thanks, Sarah. So we're going to run through some of these slides quickly and then get to our live demo with Justin. Just a couple of factoids to go over first, the state of CRM, really talking about the ever-changing landscape. Again, I've been doing this for a dozen years, and it just seems like every year it's just a different landscape and new exciting technology. So it's ever changing. We want to cover that. A lot of CRM projects fail and why. We'll go into that. The simplicity of Zendesk as compared to a lot of other products is quite striking. I've really appreciated the simplicity of it as compared to a lot of other products. So we'll speak about that. And then take a look at Zendesk. And we'll even go over the pricing and feature set before Justin takes over the demo.
Awesome. And before we jump into all of that, Sonia, what do you think about a couple of poll questions just to get a sense of where our audience is with CRM?
Let's do it.
So first, we have two poll questions for you all. The first is, do you currently use CRM at your company? So I'm going to launch that right now. And there's a couple of options. Yes, Salesforce. Yes, SugarCell, yes, HubSpot, yes, another CRM, or no, you're not currently using it. So I'm just going to give folks, we're at 45% have voted. So if you haven't voted yet, go ahead and click one of those before I close this one out. It looks like the majority of today's audience is not currently using a CRM system. So about 60% are not using CRM. So that's good to know. And then our second poll question we have is, are you planning to implement a new CRM system? So those of you maybe who aren't using one currently, or those of you who are maybe on a CRM system, are you looking to make a move to another one within the next 6 months? And so Justin and Sonia, for the both of you, just to let you know, 56% are exploring options and 22% are, now we're up to 60% are exploring their options and 20% say it's a possibility. Okay, I'm going to close these and we'll move right into the presentation.
Great, and that's good info, Sarah, thank you. This is a great webinar for you if you're just exploring it, because we're not going to overwhelm you too much here. And again, the simplicity is very attractive. So the state of CRM, covering this really quickly, it is still the biggest and fastest growing software market worldwide. And yeah, expected to go over 82 billion by 25. There are so many options that it's dizzying, which is why we love talking to companies about the options. Can skinny it down pretty quickly according to needs. And it's there are a lot of big products, and there are many more smaller products making up the 140. So there's just a lot of resources out there, and probably a lot of information that's at your fingertips. And how do you determine the right fit for your business? There's so many different things to consider, and we want to get into that. So the common reasons for CRM failure, well, we always say you have to start with people and process before you get into the technology. So yes, we're kind of skipping over that and showing you a solution today, but it is imperative that you sit down with your team, and if you need outside consulting help, awesome, give us a call. But it's imperative that first you state the mission. What are we trying to accomplish? What are some of the processes that we're looking to streamline and improve? And can our people handle that? If you just throw a product in and you expect that people are going to catch on and your processes will just instantly figure themselves out, it's probably not the case. So that's a very, large reason why CRM projects fail. They just buy the product and then there's no one there to actually support the vision and implement it. So don't get sold. Do your research first and really look at your people and process first. And they look at, logos. This isn't car shopping. This is really going to automate and help your business. So we shouldn't just be looking at logos. We should be looking at your needs first, and then how can technology better and automate those processes that you guys have in place. And of course, if it's too busy, if there's too much, if it does a whole bunch of cool little things that salespeople aren't going to care about, the rate of failure is even higher. So the more simple, the less complex, you tend to get a much higher adoption rate in people. Salespeople, especially with our little ADD tendencies, will really just focus on the good things that it does and making their lives easier, and less about filling in a bunch of fields that no one cares about in a salesperson's mind. So simplicity.
Everyone's speaking from experience on that one. So.
Yep. And so what does simplicity do for you? Well, of course, it's that higher user adoption, right? People will actually use what you're putting in front of them. Improve productivity. At cocktail parties, I talk to people about, CRM, of course. And my friends often say, once a month I have to get in there and just update my deals. And it breaks my heart. This should be a tool that helps your day. Like, I can't imagine not having this tool and being as productive as I am. So it needs to help the salesperson. Smarter selling, where to spend your time. If you see that you've got 20 archived emails with no responses, then maybe you should divert your attention to someone who actually wants to talk to you. Accessibility to data. So everyone's sharing, of course, like everyone's going to share data. Names are going to be, updated. Email addresses are going to be in there. I'm going to say one that's not on here, Sarah, that's going to hit home for you in marketing. If it's easy to use and it's easy to put people's information into, then marketing wins, right? So if I'm like, oh yeah, customer, who's your IT person? Oh great, let me just boom, 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 fill in 4 fields and be done. So I'm building out the contact database that in turn is going to help our marketing team bring in more business for me. And of course, the enhanced customer experience, right? The right hand is going to know what the left is doing. When we have someone out for the day or the week, we don't have to text or pester them, or God forbid someone leaves the company. There's so much more information gathered in a common database. And, with that, a huge ROI. You have to really look at it like, if what's your average deal size? And do you think, it's extremely possible that you'll save each rep will save at least 1 deal, let's say, by having a CRM. It probably 1 a quarter or more. Do the math there, right? So it's got to have an ROI, but that's actually stuff that we can help you figure out, and there are actually ways to come up with the CRM ROI. So, Zendesk Sell. It's part of Zendesk, which was founded in 2007 and is the support hub that most of us know. Uber, New Balance, right? All of those big logos use Zendesk support. And just a few years ago, they acquired Base along with the talented Justin into the team. They really started improving the product then, rolling it in so it's fully integrated into the Zendesk support suite, which has a lot of different arms to it. But if you're taking, cases, tickets, you're getting online chats, all of that's happening through Zendesk, you're also going to have that same view of the customer on the CRM side if you're using both products, and vice versa. So if I'm using Sell as a sales rep and one of my customers puts a support ticket in, then the support rep can see on a little sidebar, oh, Sonia's working a $20,000 opportunity with this person who's, a level 10, angry about not being able to log in. So I'm going to, send Sonia a Slack really quick to let her know that this deal might be in jeopardy. So again, kind of helping that customer experience and giving your team members the right information. Justin, you're the brain on this. Is there anything else you wanted to say just since the acquisition, kind of how things have changed or anything about Base?
Yeah, I mean, I think, at this point, I think I'm longest tenured in our sales org if we look back to, who came over with the acquisition, et cetera. But if looking at the product investments that Zendesk has made into sell this year, I would say by June we probably had more product like updates, upgrades, et cetera, by 6 months into the year than any prior year since I've been here. So Zendesk has been dumping a tremendous amount of product development into it, connecting it in seamlessly into the suite of applications that they offer, such as chat, working on integrating into Explorer. So where we were, I would say, a year ago and where we are now, it feels like a totally different product. So yeah, I think that's been one of the positives about being on board with Zendesk is that they're taking their approach to CRM and building out kind of a holistic platform very seriously, and you see that in what they've been able to accomplish with Sell in recent months.
And it was a mobile platform to begin with, right?
Yeah, actually, before we had a web app, there was a mobile app, and the success of our mobile platform, if you look at our earliest enterprise customers, most of them were people that spent most of their time in the field, be it field-based sales teams or door-to-door sales teams. So we had, hundreds of users that were using mobile only. In some cases, didn't even have access to a desktop. And I think we've been able to maintain that kind of dominance in the mobile market over time. Have had over 4.5, I think, star rating on both the Apple App Store and the Google Play Store since we launched it in 2013. So
great. Yeah, that's a while for a mobile app in general. And then there's Sunshine too, which I'm so excited about this product. For those of you who are deep into the CRM space like me, there's something called the Common Data Model, CDM, which Microsoft really signed on to a few years ago, and Salesforce. But it's different, and I think it's better here in the Zendesk arena. It's supported by Amazon Web Services, and this is a really nice common data model that sits below all of these Zendesk products, and they can all filter into a data warehouse. And it also, Sunshine enables you to make custom applications. So we're actually looking at doing a few really fun custom apps and front ends for some of our customers. So just imagine this, maybe you've got an ERP system over here, and you've got maybe a partner portal over here, and your CRM over here is Zendesk. And instead of just, putting all of that into a data warehouse and just having to manage it and everything like that, we can plug it into Sunshine, feed some of that information from these different applications, and surface them up in a new front end, right? So your people are actually looking at a Sunshine app, but they don't know it, and it's custom to your business. So there are a lot of really cool things that we can do with Sunshine and the whole Zendesk suite we're really excited about. All right, so some of the unique things that you're going to see in Justin's demo, really good pricing, super affordable starting point, and even some monthly pricing where you can get in the door really easily. Talk integration, it's the best I've ever seen. We'll speak to that, but it's basically integrating your phone seamlessly. Email interface, you just type emails right there. Multiple pipelines is actually extremely unique. Microsoft, Salesforce, some of the bigger logos, this is not a thing out of the box. So just imagine I have 2 sales teams, new logo and then existing. And so I can make 2 different pipelines for those, and their sales stages might be different. So it sounds like a nuance, but it's not. It's a really big differentiator, and we'll look at that in real life. Part of a broader ecosystem. So like, this is a global large company. People want to be in their marketplace. So we're seeing a lot of really cutting edge applications integrating into the Zen stack. And the mobile app we already talked about, it's amazing. Integration capabilities, we're really thrilled with what we've been able to do with some customers using not only Sunshine, but there are several other ways to integrate existing, ERP systems, whatever. If it's ugly, we want to see it, and we're up for the challenge, and very simple to use. Okay. All right.
All right, my turn. Beautiful.
All right, so I'm going to go ahead and make you the presenter, Justin.
Thank you. All right, give me 1 second here. You should be seeing my screen now. Is that coming through okay?
There we go. Yep.
All right, perfect. And let me know if there's a slight delay in here so I can slow down. All right, so what I'm going to do, I think the best way to kind of showcase this today is let's just take it from the top, right? We're going to assume that we're playing the role of sales rep. We're going to work a lead from the moment it hits our system, get it into the pipeline, work a pipeline, and then for most of these use cases, you're probably managing a current book of business. How do we actually maintain that book of business over time? Make sure that we're not letting any critical information slip through the cracks. So first, what I've done here is I'm assuming it's Tuesday morning. I've logged into my dashboard. I've got this dashboard that is designed to show me what I need to be focusing on today, right? So I have my task up here on the top left. I've got open leads that I'm going to follow up on, pending deals that are expected to close this half. And as I scroll down here, you'll see I've got a few more reports embedded. Okay, so what's my forecast by month this quarter? We'll just pretend we're at the beginning of the quarter here. Where am I at against my goal attainment for the month? My top accounts that I need to follow up on that I haven't been in touch with recently. And if you keep scrolling down here, I put a few reports in here that kind of have more of that, are speaking more to that management position, right? So what's my team booking month over month this quarter? Revenue goal attainment across the team. What is my team forecasting? And managing the dashboard is designed to be very simple. I cannot emphasize enough the simplicity of how Zell has been designed. And if you have been a Zendesk customer, if you worked with us for a while, you might have heard the phrase beautifully simple. The goal of our products, every product, regardless if it's a sell product, a support product, it's easy to use. It's also easy to maintain though. And I'm going to guess that there's probably a number of people on the phone here that might not be maybe a power user, but would be maybe an admin for the system or someone maintaining it. So we'll touch on that in a little while as well, is how do we, we don't want to sink, let's say, 3 full-time personnel into managing our CRM. So how do we dial back on that effort so that we can maintain it at a lower cost and deploy changes to the CRM without a lot of effort, right? So on the dashboard here, you'll see that I'm dragging and dropping, right? So again, everything is designed to be pretty simple to kind of navigate and use. If I want to add another widget, I can come in here and simply select one. If I want to change this, I click into it. We'll say that I want to change the, maybe instead of looking at it grouping by month, I want to group it by team. And then I want to take further and maybe drill down another level, group by team, by owner, right? So making updates to our reports, changes, and things like that, a very simple process that anybody, regardless of their level of technical expertise, should be able to figure out with only a couple minutes of training. So I'm going to jump back to my dashboard here, and all right, I'm going to first things first, I'm going to jump on my open leads this morning. All right, so I come in here, and what I'm looking at now is you see almost this kind of has a Excel-like feeling. This is what we call our smart list, right? So you'll see this is my open lead smart list. If I click on this, I'm clicking into my working center, which is Zendesk speak for your list of reports here, right? So I've got all of my various lists that I have built and prioritized. And when I mentioned Excel, that was very much kind of an intentional statement on my part. The reality is most customers, regardless if they have a CRM or not, they're using Excel somewhere to do sales, right? They're either managing a forecast off of it, or they are managing kind of their accounts off of that. I've been surprised at the number of organizations that are spending, well into the 6 and 7 figures on CRMs that are still relying in large part on Excel. So what we did was we tried to take a lot of the things that people like about that and build it into our smart list center here, right? So I come over here and you'll notice I can make inline edits, make changes on the fly. If I need to drag and drop something, if I need to sort, let's say I only want to look at ones that have phone numbers. I need to add a new field in, I can come in there and simply select that field. Again, the goal here is to make this as easy to navigate around as possible to encourage people to actually use it, right? Remove as many barriers to getting data into the system as possible. And generally, as a result, you're going to see better adoption, right? So, all right, and in this case, I've got 24 open leads. I'm going to assume that these are all new. It looks like in this case they are. So you see my status there, new inquiry. First things first, I'm actually going to go ahead and drop them into an email sequence. Now, this is something that is new in the last few months. We have a product called Reach. Reach allows us to enrich your data. It also allows us to add data into the system if you like. So in this case, let's assume that I'm going to go ahead and click Enrich. And what this does is we're partnered with a data provider called Clearbit. It's a company headquartered in the Bay Area, works with a lot of enterprise sales organizations across the country. I click Enrich, and that enriches it with up to 50 different data points that we have about these individuals, right? So it could be phone numbers, industry, where that person is located at, social profiles. So you get a lead that comes in from your marketing portal. Maybe you just got phone number and email. You know, that's enough for us to be able to enrich it and grab in a lot of different data points that can enable you to actually have a better phone call, and will keep this the system or the data in your system more up to date over time. So I'll go ahead and enrich that. Other part of Reach is it allows me to do outbound prospecting at scale. So you'll see this start sequence button here when I select all these. So when I click on this, you'll see I have these sequences, right? And what this is essentially is I have built out a multi-touch point email sequence. So day 1, they get an email, day 3, they get an email, day 4, et cetera, et cetera. So I'm going to click on example sequence. This is what one of our admins put together for us. I want to click on start sequence, and you'll notice it's going to drop me into this this form that gives me insight into what I'm actually sending my customers. So you'll see I've got these merge tags, you know, first name, oh, nice little typo there I need to correct, company name, work number. All we're doing here is drawing on data fields inside of cell, right? And if there's, you know, let's say that you are missing some information, you know, last thing you want to do is have that mail merge go out with a big fat, oh, we're, you know, work number as opposed to a number. It'll flag those as well. So I can click start sequence. I'm not going to start the sequence in this case because there's actually a few actual people in this sequence. So I'm going to back out. We're going to assume that we started that. All right. So now I've kind of I have now automated my outbound to these customers for the next couple of weeks, and then I'm actually going to make a phone call as the next step. All right, so I'm going to load these into a call list. So this is something that Sonny mentioned earlier, our talk integration, right? So first thing, let me clarify, that email sequence I put together, that's connected into your email. Whether you're using Google Mail, whether you're using Office 365, we're connected into your email so that you're not, this isn't coming from a marketing system, right? I want to be clear that we're not looking to replace that. We're looking to enable a sales user to outbound at scale, to kind of manage their book of business and increase their activity volume at scale. So I send out that bulk email. It's coming from my inbox. Whenever they email me back, it's going to show up in Sell as well, because that integration works 2 ways. You don't have to click a button. You don't have to send to you know, CRM. You don't have to, you know, BCC to CRM. All of that happens without you ever having to lift a finger. And then what I've done is I've taken and I've uploaded this into a call list, and now I'm going to be using the talk integration of Sell to call these contacts. So in this case, I have we're connected into Twilio, right? So this is powered on our Twilio VoIP dialer. So when I call, you'll notice down here at the bottom, I got this little countdown, right? If let's say scripts inside Sell scripts, we have different calls rely on. It starts calling, and I'm going to go ahead and hang up. I'm going to assume that I had a good phone call. So in this case, yeah, you notice call cell, we have a bunch of dummy numbers in there, so we're not actually calling real people. So I come in here and this is a note. And we've got some pretty cool stuff in here, like rich text formatting, right? Like, hey, you can actually take meeting notes as you would in a meeting, right? So think if you like Evernote or OneNote or something like that, taking a lot of the feature of that and built it into our note taking to, again, encourage people to actually use the functionality of Sale, right? We want you to keep your notes here. We don't want them in a third-party system somewhere, right? So, hey, I'm going to say point 1, point 2, point 3, great call. We're going to go ahead and save that. And then actually what I'm going to do here, because we did have a good call, I'm going to pause this. And I'm going to go ahead and click into the lead record here. And I'm actually going to convert this and get it into the pipeline, right? Now you'll see not a lot of information here because it is a top funnel lead. We've just reached out to them for the first time. Left-hand side here, you say, hey, what's the lead status? What's the phone number, email address? I jump over here to the right. I've got, I had a task open. This task was automatically created whenever the lead was created to remind me to call. Are they part of a MailChimp campaign? Are they associated with any other lead that might be working with similar companies? If we had dropped them into the sequence, you would notice that they would be a part of that sequence that we had just fired up. Let's assume that in this case, we actually scheduled a phone call. We're going to be reviewing our product with them or maybe dropping in for a visit or something like that. We'll just pretend this is a software demo overview. So we scheduled a meeting for tomorrow at noon. We're going to make that an hour. And in this case, again, same as with the email, we're connected into your calendar as well, right? So this is coming from your calendar, whether it's Google Calendar or Outlook Calendar. Doesn't matter if you send it from here. If you want to send it from your calendar as you normally do, that's fine. We'll capture it because again, that the integration works both ways. But the benefit here is that I can do virtually everything that I need to do from one application instead of switching to multiple different applications. So I'm going to save and send invite. I'm going to take and I'm actually going to kick this into a pipeline. You see, I'm going to come down here and I'm going to select the pipeline. As Sonia mentioned earlier, we have multiple pipelines. In this case, we're going to treat this as new business. So we're going to drop it into our new business pipeline. And now this is going to take this contact here and convert it into a company. If there's already a company in there, we'll merge it with that company. It'll create a contact record for that person, and it's going to create a deal within our new business pipeline here. All right, and I'll go ahead and create a task there as well. I'm going to create that for tomorrow. Convert. And now we've just taken the lead from top of funnel, hit our system, haven't reached out to them. We've done all our outreach inside of Sell, and now we've actually kicked this person into a pipeline as a qualified stage 1 opportunity.
And hey, Justin,
yeah.
You just said something that piqued a really pertinent comment here for me. So Outreach and SalesLoft are 2 of the most popular sales enablement technologies, and they have a pretty price tag. So this is interesting that Reach and with Zendesk basically is an Outreach Lite.
I thought the same thing.
With the dialer, and so you're kind of like without that huge price tag and integrating. So normally, like we work with big sales organizations, like clients that have, Salesforce or whatever for the CRM, and then they also pay tens of thousands of dollars for Outreach or SalesLoft, and they integrate them, and it's great. It's expensive.
Yeah, and I think actually, God, I haven't seen this image in a while, but I'm sure anybody here that's ever looked at CRM, God knows you've probably seen what's the true cost of CRM visual with like the iceberg and all the embedded cost below. On average, you can't think about a product like this in terms of like what's the cost of just that product, right? Be it Microsoft, Salesforce, Zendesk, etc. It's what are all the other applications that you have to plug in order to enable a salesperson to do their job effectively, right? And I think that is where a lot of the enterprise-grade applications historically have ceded a lot of product innovation to third-party companies, right? So that in reality, if you wanted to do the really cool like 2020 stuff, you got to go buy this application to do this function. You got to go buy this application to do that function, etc. And I think one thing, and this just comes from, we have great product leadership at Zendesk, and the gentleman that runs product for Sell is very intentional in trying to build functionality in sale that enables a salesperson to truly do their job, right? And he strongly of the opinion that a lot of the big players have ceded product innovation to other smaller third-party companies, and he strongly believes that there are just some functions that a CRM should do. Like, it's not
Yeah.
something that you have to go out and buy another one. And you're seeing an example of that right here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah, thanks for calling that out. So let's so we've just taken a lead from top of funnel, got it into the pipeline. You'll notice, hey, I've got the deal over here. I'm actually going to jump into just pipeline management in general for a minute, and then we'll talk about, hey, how do we manage a pipeline, and then we're going to jump to how do we manage a book of business, reporting, and then we'll pause for questions from there. So what I'm looking at here is my Q3 pipeline, right? Again, we're all going to use our imagination, assume that we are beginning of the quarter here. And we're going to look at this both from the perspective of, hey, I'm a sales rep with an individual contributor, as well as like what might a manager want to be looking at if they're looking at the same report. So in this case, I'm actually going to toggle for a minute over to my active deals. So we'll look at it from the sales user perspective first. And when I come in here, you'll see I've got this list built out so that I'm looking at logged in as Saul here. I'm looking at Saul's deals, right? So I want to know deal name. I want to know pipeline stage. You'll notice here that I'm managing a couple of different pipelines. You see I've got an implementation pipeline. I got a new business pipeline. Estimated close dates that I'm looking at only things that are closing this quarter. When is the last time there was any touch point against this deal? Last communication, meaning when was the last time that I had an email, a phone call, a meeting invite, or something like that went out? When is the last time that we actually moved this forward in the funnel? Basically, any data point that you have about this deal, we can build into this report. And by build, I mean, it's as simple as I click a button, right? So we make sure we highlight the simplicity of this. And then I can use that to prioritize this list, right? So if I want to look at all deals that I have closing this quarter that I haven't spoken to in 2 weeks, I want to look at all deals that have an overdue task, or all deals that haven't had a stage change in the last 30 days, right? Maybe you have a higher velocity sales cycle and you need to ensure that things are progressing steadily, because the longer they sit, the higher the likelihood they're going to fall out of the pipeline, either move to lost or unqualified. So I've got this kind of easy view here, and let's say that I want to click into one of my deals here. You're going to notice a very similar look and feel across all of our different objects. So when I say object, I'm referring to a deal object, a person, a company, a lead. But you'll notice we always have, hey, left-hand side here will be our custom fields. Custom fields not filled out, doesn't show up, right? So we've removed the whole problem of rows and rows and rows and rows of dead white space, because people that implement CRM love to implement 200 custom fields that sales reps never use. So we kind of hide that here, make the user interface a lot cleaner. Down the center, the focal point of all of our objects is always the activity feed, right? Think of this as, I abuse this cliche too much, but like Facebook for your business, right? So I've got a chronological feed of everything that is happening across my business with this customer, or with this customer related to this deal. Could be a marketing activity, could be, in this case, you can see I've got appointments that are coming through. I have deal stage movement. I have notes that are being left, texts that are being sent, emails that are going out. And then on the right-hand side here, we have our widgets and apps. So what are the people that I'm working with here, right? So I'm working directly with the customer. Maybe I'm working with a distributor that is carrying the product as well. I have an integration into our backend, right? If you have an ERP system, number one custom integration people ask for is we need to connect our sales data in, right? So I've got a kind of a framework, excuse me, this isn't a live integration. This is a mock-up, but we can build these custom apps. This is something Sonia mentioned earlier, to bring in data from, let's say, your backend systems, right? Your ERP system, your enterprise data warehouse. Or we can use something like Sunshine to actually host that data. If you don't have the tech stack available for us to pull from, we can host the data and embed it here as well, right? So we've got kind of this this ability to embed these custom apps. Then I scroll down here and I've got these other widgets, and we'll get into some other out-of-the-box apps we have in a little while when we look at a company record. Again, the goal here, though, is that when I'm looking at an opportunity record, is I see everything that I need to see about that opportunity on a single screen, right? Who am I working with? What's our activity been? If this is, let's say that this is a deal that's working its way through our ERP system or has been shipped or something like that, I can have all that in here. I can see if what appointments I have. If there's open tickets with the customer coming over from support, I'll see that. So again, everything that I need to know about the status of this opportunity available from a single screen without me needing to go to another application or somewhere else in the business to figure out what's going on. And I'm going to pivot back for a minute to deals, and I'm actually going to take it from the management view as well. So I'm looking at Q3 pipeline. I'm going to assume that a minute that I'm in here as a manager. I'm actually going to go ahead and discard my call list here so I get that out of the way. And now you can see that for my Q3 pipeline, if you look at the bottom here, I've got the summary. I've got 25 deals working their way through the pipeline on my team. Total of almost 6.5 million, $250,000 average deal size. And as a manager, hey, what I'm really interested in is, I want to look at estimated close date, looking at this quarter. I want to focus on, I want to make sure that I prioritize the ones that haven't been called on recently. It's been over a year. These are probably dead deals. And then let's see, I should probably have value in there. So let's go ahead and add value. And then I've got owner, right? Who on my team actually owns this, right? So I've got a really easy way to take a somewhat large volume of deals and then prioritize it accordingly. I'm only really interested in looking at maybe deals above 20,000, right? So I can further drill down on that. And I want to look at all deals that haven't been touched in the last 30 days, right? Right, so now I can kind of take everything that I'm looking at for a given period of time, and then I drill down on that further. And then, maybe this is going to be the focal point of our next weekly meeting is, hey, we have a huge amount of business, $3.5 million that hasn't been touched in this span of time. We need to, prioritize that this week, right? Maybe I want to take a look at this through the lens of, that stage by stage view, right? That Kanban view. So how many do we have in stage 1, stage 2, stage 3, et cetera, all right? So I can kind of get that different visual that will kind of give me a different flavor on the status for our pipeline. And so that's kind of an idea of how a manager might potentially be using this. And of course, then you can start toggling between different pipelines. Different pipelines will have different stages, we'll have different custom fields, we'll have different, so let's say mandatory fields as you're progressing through the pipeline. So we really have built this out to enable organizations that have multiple teams, multiple sales processes to support give every team they need to do their job effectively without, pushing them to another system or without forcing them into a process that doesn't fit the way they operate. And I'm gonna jump into contact management for a minute here because I know we're getting up on time. What I'm looking at here is top accounts with no contact in 30 days, which is always I like to look at a smart list through this lens, mostly because one of the biggest things that I hear from customers, and bear in mind, like in the 5 years that I've been here, probably spoken to over 500 companies, and one of the most frequently mentioned challenges is if you're managing a book of business, it's not uncommon that you're managing upwards of 100 accounts or more, right? And the person managing this, as Sonia correctly noted, is a chronically ADHD individual that's not going to intuitively remember to reach out to all these 100 contacts, right? This is that classic 80-20 rule. So how do I give you the ability to easily, effectively prioritize your outreach, not let customers slip through the cracks, right? And I think we've done a really good job of kind of setting up that framework. So this is a really basic, simple list I put together, right? It took me a whopping 30 seconds to throw together the smart list. So I'm looking at my companies. I'm looking at filtered by myself as the owner. I have looked at, again, as I did with the pipeline earlier, who are the ones that I haven't reached out to the most recently? Do I have any outstanding tasks? I'll even take it a step further in something that a lot of our customers will do, is prioritizing their accounts, like either tiering it or prioritizing it based on annual sales volume. So, you need love, right? Business, or they're a more challenging account. So maybe you prioritize this in a way that says, hey, my tier 1 accounts need contact every 2 weeks, my tier 2 every 30 days, my tier 3 like every half. And then you can kind of build out these prioritized views so when I go in, I'm only looking at the accounts that need following up on that day, right? So let's assume tier 1 list, show me all the ones that haven't been touched in 30 days. Boom, I've got the 78 accounts that I need to prioritize this week. And then when I jump into one of these accounts, I want to click into Hope Productions. And this gives you a pretty good idea of what an account's going to look like over time as you start capturing more information. So left-hand side here, current customer, current prospect. That prospect just means that we have deals actively working through the pipeline. Various custom fields that I have here. Maybe these were mainly input by me. Maybe you have an active integration set up that's populating these custom fields, right, with total sales volume and things like that. Over on the right, you'll see customer deal revenue. What active deals do I have in motion? What do we have here that was historically closed or lost? I've got an open ticket, right? So again, we have a nice ticketing and support platform that a number of you are probably using. The goal here is that I give the sales rep the ability to see everything they need to see about that ticket, right? So what I see here is exactly what the support rep sees. Any emails, phone calls, text messages, things like that that are occurring, I can see all that here. And if I have edit rights to it, I can click on view and support and actually edit that ticket or respond to it. Scroll down a little bit and I'm going to see upcoming appointments I have with the company. If it's let's say most of you are probably working with customers that have multiple locations or that have subsidiaries, or there's like an enterprise flair to some of these accounts. So we can build out your companies based on sort of their hierarchy. And then you can also assign those to different reps so that, maybe you have a national account with regional sales reps managing those various individual locations. You can kind of build that out and manage it accordingly. Yeah, and as I scroll down here, you'll see, hey, I've got phone calls. I have, emails that went out. I have meeting appointments, updates to tickets, visits that occurred in the field. Now, in this case, you're seeing almost exclusively from myself, from the person I'm logged in as Saul. However, the goal here is also to show you everybody that's touching this account. And another really common one that we hear, especially with organizations that have field sales orgs, you might have 5, 6, 7, 8 people that are touching an account at any given time, right? And a common complaint that we hear is like, hey, we might have somebody call in to an inside, customer service rep or inside sales rep. They have a complaint. Sales guy shows up. He has no idea what's happened because he doesn't have a CRM or he doesn't have access to this on mobile. And he's trying to pitch something when they've just called in because they're missing a part or they're missing a shipment or something like that. And you have these oh no moments. See, I stopped myself from saying what I wanted to say. That can easily be avoided by the framework that we've set up here with our activity feed, right? Everything, again, I want to emphasize every touch point that is occurring with your customer can be captured in this feed. And I think that is the #1 challenge that customers that we speak to, that's what they can't get to, is understanding everything they need to know about an account from a single view like this. I want to click into a moment here. Let's take a look at Art Vandelay, because this is another one of our people. So let's say, hey, I'm actually calling on Art at this company. I've got a slightly different set of custom fields, a slightly different set of apps over here. Again, I can still see the tickets. In this case, if Art, if he had a complaint, I can also create a ticket from here. I scroll down, I can see that, hey, Art he's actually a part of a couple of, this is one of our out-of-the-box apps, MailChimp. So I can see that he's a part of a couple of subscriptions that if I need, if there's been activity against the subscriptions, I can click in and it'll show me if there's been activity. In this case, we just see that he was added to it, but it'll show if emails are going out, if they're being clicked into and things like that, they'll be able to see that. We have connections into billing and invoices systems. If you want to see like, hey, it looks like you have an outstanding invoice you haven't paid, right? So we have things like that we can kind of easily surface here. Again, goal always being give you everything you need to know about that person, that company, that opportunity from a single screen. And I'm gonna pause because I've been talking a lot, and I know we're bumping up on time. We can jump into reporting. We can take a step back and open it up for Q&A though. I'll leave it up to Sarah if you wanna.
Why don't you do a quick jump right into reporting? Sure. And do a quick overview of that, and then we can get into. We have had some questions come in, so we'll get into those.
Okay. Great. So we'll do 2 minutes in reporting. First thing to note here, we looked at some reportings that are on the dashboard. Those are very much revenue-driven reports. Where are we at against forecast? Where are we at against goal? How much, have we put in the pipeline this quarter? A lot of the reports in this section here are geared towards the pipeline analytics, like how effective are we at progressing deals to the funnel? What's our activity looking like? Phone calls and emails and things like that. How effective are different people at working different types of deals, right? So I'm looking at my funnel report here. This says, hey, over the last 90 days, I'm looking at a specific pipeline, by the way, in my new business pipeline. How many deals did we have in the pipeline and what happened to them? So I can see that 36 total deals in the new business pipeline over the last 30 days. And I can see that 20 are still in stage 1. I can see that 44% progress. And I get that analytics stage by stage by stage. And until I see I've got a 22.2% win rate in my new business pipeline over the last quarter. And if I want to drill down further by who owns it, by what kind of deal that I'm looking at, I can do that as well. I come over here and let's say I want to look at activity overview. Let's take a look at call outcomes. All right, now one thing to know, we track basically any action that is performed, we'll track as an activity. In this case, we'll keep it a call since that's a popular one that we hear. I can look at this month over month, week over week, day by day, doesn't matter. In this case, we'll do month over month since it shows a bit better. As I'm hovering over this, I can see, all right, Saul here is clearly making the most phone calls month by month. And then I can drill down further and say, hey, what's, I want to look at that through the lens of call outcome, right? So I can look at this by calls, by emails, by notes that were taken, by texts that were sent. I get a very easy to view and easy to digest kind of view of how our team is doing against their KPIs. And then I'm just going to hover over some of the rest of these. There's around, I think, 40 to 50 different reports in here. I've got sales goal reports. I have, why are we losing? How effective are different people on my team at converting deals to the pipeline? If I come down here, I've got things like stage duration analysis, which talks about how long does a successful deal, how long should it be sitting in each stage, right? And then different lead analysis reports, call reports, or different call reports and things like that. Again, we won't jump into all of this, but wanted to highlight there's a lot of various analytics that kind of sit within these reports that can be utilized for different types of teams. And with that, I'll pause.
Well, this is really unique, Justin. Thank you, because there are things like time before last call or time since last call in that list view that you showed before. That's not easy to do in Salesforce. What else isn't easy to do in Salesforce is this. It's time in each stage. I mean, that's something that really needs to be built into the system from the ground up to work well. In order for us to do that in Salesforce, we need to make calculation fields that timestamp when it puts it in a dummy hidden field, says, okay, when it goes to this stage, then calculate the time in between this field and this field and put it over here. I mean, that's the kind of thing that you're going to get with a more modern or up-to-date platform like this. It's baked 100%. Into the DNA. So nice. Love the reporting. Sarah, what kind of questions do we have?
Great. All right. Well, one of the questions, and I'm just going to swap it back because we have a slide, so it's like perfect timing, around cost and user minimum. So let me just swap back and make sure that I'm sharing the right screen. And then I'll use Zenman.
There we go.
So why don't you, Justin and Sonia, talk through the costs a little bit?
Sure. I mean, we've got people that start on team, right? Yeah. And then you can, their annual contracts at a lesser rate or, quarterly or monthly. So there are no user minimums, right, Justin?
Correct. Yeah, I think on team, there's no user minimum. I think it caps out at 3 users on team. So we do see a lot of small businesses use that. We also see some larger organizations that are like running a pilot, right? And they don't want to invest a tremendous amount of capital to validate the product. We'll use that as well. So, and then there's no user minimums or maximums across the other plans also.
Yep, and oftentimes we'll see a more, a company with an established sales process. Doesn't always matter the number of employees or users, honestly, but if they have an established sales process with metrics they want to gather, enterprise is usually where we're seeing people, because then you get the call scripts, you get the power dialer, task automation, and the multiple pipelines, which is really nice. So that's where we're seeing a lot of people as well.
Yeah, I think one thing to note, and I'll bring it back to this from what I said earlier. It's hard to compare. I think it's very hard to compare us to like, oh, but what does this look like against what the Salesforce Enterprise Plan is, or Microsoft, et cetera. And I think the reason for that is to emphasize that we try to pack in a lot more functionality into each edition, right? So you're still
like
getting
text messaging. Like if you had to add text messaging into Salesforce, like you'd go and get the Twilio integration, and so you'd have to get that, and then you'd have to pay for the credits, and you have to do this and that, and like someone has to babysat that integration. So if they upgrade and that connector is not upgraded, then they're out of sync.
Yeah, no, you definitely, you got to look at total cost of ownership, and that's going to include a number of plugins with a number of your legacy enterprise players.
Great. Awesome. Okay, another question I have. It seems like this is really perfect for sales. I work for an electric utility as an account manager. Do you think it's compatible with our type of business?
Yeah, I can. Do you want me to take that, Sonia, or do you want to take it?
Yeah.
So obviously it's called Sell. We focus on the sales use case. That being said, very common that we have contact management use cases, right? Ultimately, every business, regardless of what they're doing, every organization, be it a government organization or whatever, they have a book of contacts they're looking to manage. So we do have the ability to just set this up as a contact management tool. And to simplify this for your end users, one thing we didn't touch on is like the permissions, right? If I only want them to be able to see contact objects, they don't need to see leads, they don't need to see deals. You can lock it down such that all they're able to access is contacts, which again kind of forces that user into a certain the box that you need them to live in, right? So that is sort of how we have been able to maintain a very successful series of use cases with contact management only use cases.
Great. And then there could be a support aspect to that. So at a utility, I don't know if there's any kind of support, but oftentimes when we talk to customers, they might describe something that's very similar to that. So it's like, oh, well, we kind of have this sales thing, but we do mostly support in this. And sometimes we'll find a really nice marriage between a couple users of Sell for maybe people who are doing like new logo ads, and then support on the Zen side is handling all of your existing utility customers, right?
Yeah.
And all of those contacts from the existing customers are in Sell too.
Yeah.
Right. So like oftentimes, just talk to us, because if there's not, if it doesn't seem like a perfect fit right here, then it probably will be once you look at some of the other Zendesk products.
If anything, it's going to be cheaper to deploy it, because you know what? You don't have a sales process to implement. You probably don't need a updated edition. So those contact management use cases those are the fastest, most cost-effective implementations that I think we see.
I will say too, the startup costs of this are going to be much less than your Salesforce, your Microsoft, because there's less complexity because it's simple, right? And it's also so much is out of the box, and it's so easy to use. So we also have clients who don't even get professional services from us at all. Like they'll try it for a week or two, and then that will just turn into their paid instance, and they'll just keep going. So it's way less complex to administer.
Yeah.
For a variety of reasons.
Okay, last question. Please comment more on how to integrate this with an existing ERP system.
Yeah.
All you, Sonia.
Well, this is what we love to do. And so we've done so many different integration projects with multitudes of software systems. And it's been a real pleasure working with Zendesk on this, and support side too.
Yeah.
So there are probably like 3 to 4 different approaches we take with integrations. If it's unique enough where you want kind of a different front end for people, we can look at Sunshine. There's also something called a ZAF client with Zendesk, in which it's kind of it's a way to use the API but make these custom objects differently than Sunshine. There are other ways to make calls directly to the API. I will say too, I'm not a developer, but all of our engineers have been thrilled with the documentation for the API, the support that they're getting from Zendesk as we keep doing these integrations is really great. So every integration is different. Talk to us, and nothing's off limits. We're up for a challenge, but this is not like a 6-figure project, you know, at all.
Right.
Sorry, I can't be more specific.
Thank you both.
Let's put it this way: the customers I have sent to BrainSell, specifically for ERP integrations, always noted as cost-effective and have been happy. So I mean, yeah, I mean that's why we continue sending you guys business. Is everyone we send to you loves the output. So
thanks.
Awesome. All right, well, we have 1 minute, so we're right on time. So everyone that attended this webinar, we're offering a complimentary one-to-one CRM value assessment. Sonia, if you want to kind of elaborate on that, what I'm going to do right now is launch a poll to enable you to, if you want to take advantage of it, select yes. If you're not sure, select maybe. And if you're not interested right now, just put not right now. Well, Sonia kind of gives our final thoughts.
So I talked earlier about the ROI of CRM, and that's what we'll do. You know, we'll dig in, we'll get your preparedness for how prepared your organization is to take on this kind of project, and are you ready, or is it time to hit the pause button? Right. So it behooves everyone to just put a product in there and hope that it works. So we will actually sit down with you guys on a Zoom and get some of those specifics to tease out, are you ready for CRM, and what we suggest.
Great. Thank you, Sonia. And all right, well, that concludes our presentation for today. Thank you, Justin and Sonia, for joining us. Any final words before we say goodbye? Final thoughts?
I love it. And I got to say, I'm texting. We're ending the end of the quarter here. We're nearing it, and I just love the ability to text through the application. There are not many CRMs that you can just text. So I love it.
And if you're not at 100% by end of quarter, it's a sign you should call us.
Right. Thanks, Justin.
Have a good look, everyone.
Sarah.
Closing up.
All right. Thanks, guys. Bye.
Thank you.